okay, is far beyond our expectation.
It's the safest way of owning a house.
My mouth is full of appreciation to Federal Mortgage Bank.
A large proportion of the Nigerian workforce falls under the informal sector, and because of this fact, the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria is incessantly looking for opportunities to draw in contributors into the National Housing Fund so that more Nigerians can benefit from the bank's products. Recently, the bank went round all 6 geopolitical zones of the country on a sensitization drive to interact with the informal sector. These meetings will form the thrust for our episode tonight, alongside other regular segments of news, dream come true, and frequently asked questions. A very good evening to you. Thank you for keeping a date with us again on yet another edition of the program, Everyone Deserves a Home. I am your regular anchor, Zulaihat Belagubir. We'll take a short break here, and when we return, the package in full. See you after the break.
Get trained as a mortgage expert, smart property development industry player. Get that full option capacity training center for your individual or organizational needs at the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria FMBN Training Center. Courses are both technical and managerial in mortgage operations, finance, human resources, and ICT, all facilitated by both internal and external mortgage and property industry experts.
We borrow the money from the bank. Every month we're servicing it.
All FMBN courses are approved by the Center for Management Development. Meanwhile, the FMBN Training Center offers its training facilities for rentals, 3 seminar rooms of 30 sitting capacities, 2 syndicate rooms of 10 and 12 sitting capacities, 2 conference halls of 108 and 78 sitting capacities, an ICT lab of 38 seats, and a 24/7 power supply. Visit the FMBN Center at number J4 Ali Akilu Road, Kaduna. Email training.school@fmbn.gov.ng or call 0901 280 3484.
Welcome back. We'll begin the program with news highlights. Tonight, FMBN welcomes new board chairman and SEC to partner stakeholders in real estate on reducing the housing deficit. Do stay tuned for the details.
The board, executive management and staff of the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria FMBN has welcomed Mr. Ayodeji Ariyo Belegi as the board chairman, Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria. This is coming after President Muhammadu Buhari confirmed his appointment as the bank's board chairman. Belegi, who is a chartered accountant and an associate of the Chartered Institute of Taxation, is a well-known financial expert who was once a commissioner for finance in Lagos State, as well as a major player in the aviation sector. His experience, expertise, and wealth of knowledge will be a valuable addition to the ongoing efforts to reposition FMBN as a more impactful government tool for the delivery of affordable housing to Nigerians. Mr. Ayodeji Ariyo Belegi replaces late Chief Adewale Adesoji Adeeyo, who passed on recently. The Director General, Securities and Exchange Commission, Mr. Lamido Iguda, has said that the Commission will collaborate with stakeholders in the real estate sector to reduce the country's housing deficit. He was speaking during a meeting with the Nigerian Institute of Estate Surveyors and Valuers in Abuja recently. Yuguda commended the work of the institute to the capital market and the nation at large, noting that there is room for greater collaboration between the Commission and the institute. He said that the Institute of Estate Surveyors and Valuers has a big role to play in improving the GDP of the country through facilitating the trading of assets in the real estate sector. He also said that with the fast-growing population of the country, there is need for each Nigerian to have a roof over his or her head. because of the security and social value in owning one's own home. President and Chairman of the Institute, Mr. Emmanuel Wike, commended the SEC management for its contribution to the capital market towards the economic development of the country. He called for a strengthened collaboration between the two institutions.
Glad to have you back. One of the items in the 5-year strategic plan of the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria is to meet the housing needs of the informal sector. In order to achieve this, the bank towards the later part of last year went around the 6 geopolitical zones of the country to have an intensive interaction with the informal sector to know what their needs are and to know exactly what efforts to put towards meeting these needs. In our next segment, Building Blocks, we shall bring you details of the interactive session from 2 zones, Northeast and South-South zones. Don't go away.
The law establishing the National Housing Fund makes it mandatory for everyone in the formal sector to contribute to the fund. Little wonder then that Nigerians perceive the FMBN to be for the formal sector employees. With a larger population of the nation's workforce under the informal sector, the FMBN has made it a point in its 5-year strategic plan to include and integrate the informal sector into the fund. How is the bank hoping to achieve this?
So what we're doing is essentially dialoguing with representatives of the informal sector. The idea is to sit down at a round table and discuss with them to identify their needs, to identify the challenges they are facing when it comes to the issues of housing or housing finance, and on the basis of that to see how we can develop those services that will meet those needs.
The interactive sessions had 5 basic drivers for the discussions. They are: how to better understand the informal sector, what are the housing finance needs of the informal sector, what are the possible products, what roles are there for cooperative societies and trade unions, and what options and possibilities are there for integration.
And all our loans, all these ones I've mentioned, all of them are at 6% interest rates.
Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, was the first port of call for the bank, as it brought together different informal sector groups such as traders, agriculturists, transporters, etc. Representing the managing director, architect Ahmed Ngiwa, was the group head special products group of the bank, Ibrahim Nafada. In a keynote address, the MD noted that the bank had identified the informal sector to be most in need of affordable housing.
This initiative is as a result of Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria's new approach to sit down and dialogue with members of the informal sector to address the needs of its customers for the delivery of its mandate. We recognize that the informal sector constitutes the largest group of over 70 million workers in Nigeria. In addition, the informal sector has the greatest need for affordable housing, but unfortunately, it is the most disadvantaged economically and most challenging in accessing funding to meet their housing need compared to counterparts in the formal sector.
He reiterated the need for improvements in the bank's already existing products like the Cooperative Housing Development Loan, which caters for the informal sector too.
I also want to emphasize on the importance attached to this gathering and also the discussion. One of the ways we have started to do this is through Federal Mortgage Bank's Cooperative Housing Development Loan, by which we provide loans for cooperative societies, that's the ones in the formal sector, to construct affordable houses for their members. The bank has so much investment into those cooperative societies for the formal sector. This is being carried out under the National Housing Cooperative Scheme, being driven by the Honorable Minister of Works and Housing, especially focused on informal sector. We have also relaxed more requirements to ensure that Nigerians in the informal sector can access our various loans. Beyond this, however, we believe there is still room for improvement. It is for this reason we have organized this discussion session.
A paper presentation was made to firstly enlighten the informal sector about the NHF scheme and how beneficial it is to Nigerians, especially those in the low and medium income level.
And if you come out, you don't have a place to stay.
The floor was opened to hear from the informal sector what they thought were the major issues surrounding the NHF scheme, as well as areas they think should be considered in providing loans.
The house will be built for them, and they will acquire through the union, because we know those who can afford it, we know those who cannot afford it. And most of the fishermen, most of them, they are not staying here in Maiduguri. Some are across the Nigerian. So our problem first is how can our member acquire this loan? Because those we are talking about, mostly they don't even have account numbers. That's not subscribing their money to account. And even if we force them now to open an account, that's because of this benefit. How long and how soon will the Federal Nigeria Bank consider the informal sectors?
It did not end there, as members of the informal sector were encouraged to visit the branch office for inputs that may be helpful after the deliberations.
What we've done is we brought up ideas.
Yes.
You and us will go back, we will be fine-tuning, how can this be better? So even after you have left here, if there are still things that say, we were saying this thing that day, I didn't remember this one, I think this will be, considering what we're saying, I think this will work out. How about doing it this way? Please do not hesitate. Because the essence of this engagement is, by the time we come up with something, you and I will sit and say, yes, this is it. We all contributed to this idea, and this is an idea that we know that with all our contribution and all that we thought of while doing this thing, it will work.
You should be able to have access to your bank.
For the South-South zone, the meeting point was Port Harcourt, Rivers State. The meeting was not very much different from that of the North-East zone. This time, the informal sector in this part of the country relayed one of their most necessary housing need to be land.
Finance is the most challenge we are having, and land also is another challenge, because cost of getting land in urban areas is too high. But in rural areas, most of us have enough land, even the ones we even sell out. But urban here is a problem for us.
I know personally as a company we have tried to see how we can partner, we have land, we can get good documents. CFO is another ball game. If government is going to come to partnership with real estate, they can provide good title for lands, and government can partner with the building thing. I mean, it makes the process easy. I think it's PPP, as public-private partnership.
This zone also suggested ways for the FMBN can meet its informal sector's housing need by providing a savings plan for people who are unable to save towards one thing or the other, such as saving for equity payments.
They have people reaching the people on daily basis or weekly basis. It also help for the people to be paying their money on that fund, because like watching sometimes we can go out and we spend 5,000, 10,000, understand? But if somebody approaches us on weekly or daily basis, I know that my federal bank, I have this one, I beg, put this one there for me. Understand? So all these things are part of the challenges we have that you people will look into and see how to put it together so that it can help the informal sector.
Issues of concerns were raised, such as what happens upon the death of a beneficiary.
For any contributor in the event of death, we have a process in which the next of kin, either the son or the husband or wife, anybody who's the next of kin can apply for a refund. As we said, every money we collect, every cover we collect, we must pay back.
we must pay back. We don't keep the money. So unless the person doesn't request, we keep it when the person requests. Even if it's next 20 years, we still refund back. So in the case of the death, we refund back to the next of kin. Somebody must collect the money, refund back to the next of kin. In the event that the person has taken a loan, part of the arrangement for a loan is also insurance. Okay, so it's part of what will be paid. Part of it is also for insurance. So if the person dies, no wahala. We won't come and start shouting on the wife or the our house. We won't collect that. No. The insurance will settle everything. Insurance will settle the balance the person owes, and then the family takes the property. So there's no loss at the end of the day. And that's why it's necessary to have insurance as part of the arrangement.
The goal of the FMBN is to have a distinct mode of operation for the formal and informal sectors. The engagements were quite extensive, and housing needs for the informal sector have been identified. With the information gathered by the bank, it is set to get to work to design products to suit this sector.
The latest couple in town.
Good day, sir.
How are you? Oh, sit down.
Thank you, sir.
Drinks?
No, we're fine, sir.
How was the moon experience?
It was quite an experience.
How about house?
We are renting at the moment, but we intend to save enough to own our own house, right?
Why not avoid all those Shylock landlords and own a house upfront? With the average income and cost of building houses today in Nigeria, mortgage is the best option. No sweat. I tell you what, that was how I got my first house, and I've never regretted it.
To make good homes, and by implication a good society, an individual is expected to have an abode from which to take off and return at the end of each day. At the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria, everyone deserves a home. Come join us at FMBN and let's shelter Nigeria together.
If you are just joining us, the program is Everyone Deserves a Home. In subsequent episodes of the program, we will bring you details of the discussions from other zones of the country. A lot of Nigerians simply make contributions to the National Housing Fund because it is compulsory. In fact, so many of them do not know the opportunity that lies in this contribution. Tonight, our beneficiaries, Mr. and Mrs. Mujib Jaffer, were able to purchase a house through the National Housing Fund, and their hope is to access the home renovation loan and bring the house up to their tastes. Keep watching as we share the Jaffer story towards home ownership.
The payment process is quite flawless.
It was unbelievable because I didn't know that they have such a scheme existing in Nigeria.
Is it true that I will get the house? No, why not? You met all the requirements, so we'll get it.
The joy of ownership is wonderful.
Mr. and Mrs. Mujib Jaffer are contributors to the National Housing Fund scheme. Unfortunately, he lost his job with the state government. Then, the government put up government non-essential properties for sale. Because his wife was still working with the state government, they decided to apply for the NHF loan, which enabled them pay for the house.
Actually, we did it together with her. Okay. Everything that comes up, me and her, we are going to join the house, the hand, and do the things that are going to acquire the house. Because she's a worker, and also too, I'm a worker before in the state government, so maybe by then, because of the issue of retirement and disengagement, some get in the house, some are not getting the house. So we are lucky to be part of the locals that we acquire the house.
Mujib has since been able to secure another job which enables him make up for the deductions made from his wife's account.
The repayment is her through account. Once the end of the month she got a salary, automatically you're going to deduct for the repayment. And also too, I used to give her something every month to consider her, because it's her account that limited the repayment. So that's what we used to do.
They paid a 10% equity on the property, which enabled them secure the loan from the FMBN.
Before you get the loan, or before you acquire the house, you have to pay for 10%. Then after you pay for 10%, then after like 3 to 4 months, you are going to forfeit this 25%. Then after that, the last payment will be 75%. That one will pay for the 10%. Then the federal mortgage will pay for the remaining ones. Want to see your commitments, so that you can be involved in the process. Because if you are not going to pay for the 10%, actually you are not going to get the house, because that is the policy. If you pay for 10%, that means it shows that you are serious about the issue. You wanted to acquire the house through the mortgage bank.
The Jaffers live in their 2-bedroom apartment, which they got at the cost of 3.6 million naira only. He shares with us his experience as a homeowner.
I feel so excited. I feel so relaxed because I don't have any tension in my head. Actually, when it's come to issue of rent, the moment you are just thinking of how to get the money to settle your landlord, is something that's going to be very difficult for you.
For Mujib, the repayment is not a problem for him, because the satisfaction of owning his own home makes every deduction worth it.
It's convenient now because we are living in a house now. Nobody will come and say, this is it's almost time for you to repay the payment rent or something else now. So we don't have any problem for now, actually.
He has since taken it upon himself to encourage his family and friends to acquire mortgage loans. His call to other Nigerians is to also make use of the opportunity the mortgage system offers.
Our question for the week is, how can a low-income earner get collateral for a loan?
The low-income earner it doesn't need to bother himself about the collateral. These are all the good things about the National Housing Fund scheme. The house that you buy, the mortgage that you take to buy that house that you are now living in or that you have been created a mortgage on, is the one that is a collateral unto itself. Do you get the point? So it is a collateral unto itself. You will not be asked to pay another collateral. So that is why you make a down payment or make an equity payment. Once you do that, you now begin to pay for the house. The house does not become your own until you have finished paying. So the house is more or less like a property that you have given to the bank to hold it in trust, so that until I finish this payment, then you give me my paper back, you give me my house. That is how it is.
Many thanks for staying with us through this exciting half hour. Don't forget to keep a date with us again next week, same time on this same station, as we bring you another episode of the program. For inquiries, kindly call the number showing on your screens or visit our website on www.fmbn.gov.ng or stop by at any of our branch offices nearest to you. Also catch up our previous episodes of the program on our social media handles, also showing on your screen. Good night and see you next week.